Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean, and this is my prediction for the Gennady Golovkin Danny Jacobs fight tomorrow night. I think it's a good fight. I definitely think Danny Jacobs has a chance of winning. I think Golovkin is deservedly the favourite, but Jacobs is dangerous. I think he's got a similar knockout percentage as Golovkin, if I'm not mistaken. But I do think that is slightly misleading from what I've seen anyway. A lot of the knockouts that I've seen from Jacobs have been where he's basically stunned someone and then he's jumped on them and started unloading, swinging a load of punches, and the referee stepped in and stopped it. I haven't seen quite the same response or reaction, should I say, in his opponents when he does hit them as Golovkin, where they really do look like they are hurt, and you can tell by the body language, the expression on their face, the way they start going backwards. To me, I see Danny Jacobs being a good puncher, powerful, but not on the same level as Golovkin, in my opinion. He's stopped quite a few people like that. I mean, that in itself is obviously dangerous. Once he smells blood, he'll just go all out, all guns blazing, and that in itself obviously is a dangerous fighter. And the fact that he can, the fact that he's a good finisher, and the fact that he can actually hurt you a bit in the first place, obviously means that he does have decent power. But I think when it comes to fighting with Golovkin like that, I think he's going to be outgunned. Also, the chin aspect, I do think it's exaggerated with Danny Jacobs. I don't see him as being chinny, like a lot of people say. I think he got knocked out by Pirog, who first of all was a very, very good fighter, but also that was a beautiful punch, and he set it up beautifully as well. I mean, he shifted twice, came in, changed the stance, boom, caught him. Jacobs didn't see it coming, didn't know where it was coming from, and at the time he was squared up on the ropes, and he had no stance really. He didn't have like a strong stance to protect, soak it up. He just got caught square, and it just took him out. So, yeah, I think we can say that Jacobs doesn't have like an iron jaw, but at the same time, I haven't seen anything to make believe that he's chinny. I think he got taken out by a very good punch he didn't see coming. In terms of the Sergio Mora knockdown, again, I think that is a bit misleading. I mean, he knocked the bloke down and then literally went running into him, got caught again completely square, off balance, and got caught, just literally ran into a counter punch, like a punch from Mora. He went down. Yeah, we know Mora's not a big puncher, but I think really he just caught him off balance there. I think that could have happened to anyone. He certainly wasn't hurt. He got straight up, so I don't really see that as being particularly relevant. I don't think that Danny Jacobs is chinny. I haven't seen him knocked down. Apart from that, if he has, maybe I'm wrong, but not from what I've seen. But I do think Golovkin has shown that he's got a better chin. I mean, he's never been knocked out. He's never been knocked down. Never been knocked down as a professional. Apparently, never as an amateur either. How true that is, I don't know. But I believe it. I've never seen him knocked down myself. Never seen him look close to being knocked down. People say he's never been knocked down in sparring. Again, I don't know if that's true, but he certainly does look very, very solid, and he's been in there, I think, with bigger punches than Danny Jacobs. David Lemieux, first one that springs to mind. Just looking at how David Lemieux, what happens when he hits people to what happens when Danny Jacobs hits people, I think Lemieux is a much harder puncher. And although he didn't land that many clean punches on Golovkin, he fought a very sensible fight, he still did hit him with quite a few times, and it didn't budge him. We've seen him take good punches from a lot of people, so I think in a firefight, Golovkin's going to win that all day long. In terms of boxing skill, I think Danny Jacobs is a skillful boxer. I think he's got a good punch variety. He's got quick feet, quick hands. He's got a pretty decent strength, good hooks as well. But I would give the edge there as well to Golovkin. I think Golovkin, very good balance. When he comes, pretty much never off balance from what I can see. He's got an underrated defence. He does get hit sometimes, but that's really because he's always attacking. So, you can have the best defence in the world, but if you're always attacking people, there are going to be openings. So, that is a vulnerability, if that's the right word, that he has. But I think it's unlikely that Danny Jacobs is going to be able to exploit it. People say in the Kell Brook fight, if he landed those punches on him, he would have done him some serious damage. Yeah, but there are quite a few factors there that we need to take into consideration. First of all, the location. I mean, that was the first time that Golovkin ever fought in the UK. So you've got a different time zone, you've got a different climate, you've got a completely different atmosphere, different environment. And you want to put on a show, you're fighting someone who, Kell Brook, he's a good puncher, he's a solid puncher, but he's not a massive puncher even as a welterweight. So, it's not like he's the Anthony Joshua of the welterweight division. Gennady Golovkin would have gone in there thinking, I'm not going to be hurt really by him. And he did get in there, did realise that Brook's very skillful, and he's got some pretty decent punches. He did actually hurt him a couple of times, in my opinion. Golovkin said he didn't, but he's going to say that, isn't he? But he did hurt him a couple of times. But he realised quickly that he was very skillful. So we just thought, I'm bigger, stronger, I can hit harder, I can take more punishment, I'm just going to go in there and basically just bludgeon this bloke. And that's what he did. So I don't see him doing that with Danny Jacobs. First of all, he doesn't need to, because Danny Jacobs isn't Kell Brook. He doesn't have the same skills, in my opinion. Kell Brook, first of all, he's not as quick as Kell Brook. Kell Brook's used to fighting smaller people. He's just a lot faster. Golovkin touched on this in his interview for HBO. He said he's got a really good control of distance. What Kell Brook can do is just ever so slightly change the angle and then hit you from somewhere you don't really realise he's there, change the distance, change the angle, lean back slightly and just stand in front of you, but avoid it and counter punch you and make you miss. I don't really see Danny Jacobs being able to do that. I mean, yeah, he hits harder, but I don't see him having the same success rate of landing. A bit like I said with Lemieux, I suppose, because Lemieux, in my opinion, is clearly a harder puncher than Danny Jacobs. But is he able to land them as easily as Jacobs? That's the advantage that he does have. Maybe he's a bit more of a kind of complete fighter. But yeah, that was a big factor. Also the crowd. You have to take into account, like in London or in England generally, it's very, very hype, the crowd, everybody, lots of noise, lots of energy. I think that had an effect on Golovkin, and that kind of spurred him on to fight how he did. Reckless, gung-ho kind of style. He's used to fighting in New York. He's fought there a few times. It's a different kind of style. I don't see him doing that. He's definitely going to have a lot more respect for Danny Jacobs' power. So yeah, I see it starting off quite cautiously. One advantage that Danny Jacobs has, in my opinion, well, not in my opinion, clearly, he's obviously quite a bit bigger. He's quite a lot taller. He's got longer reach. He weighs a lot more. So that's an advantage that he does have. If he can use that, then he's definitely got the potential to win. The problem is I haven't really seen him do that before. I mean, I've seen him in quite a few fights, and he's a very big middleweight, Danny Jacobs. I've seen him, pretty much every fight I've seen him, he's bigger than his opponent. But I don't see him fighting long, using his height and his reach particularly. So I don't think he's going to suddenly start doing it now. He might do it in spurts, but I don't see that being a kind of key to victory for him. So yeah, in terms of the fact that he's out there training with Virgil Hunter and in Oakland, apparently he's not actually training with them. According to Virgil Hunter, he's just there letting him use the gym. He's sort of given them a few pointers here and there. Now, a couple of people have said that this could be problematic because you've got too many people in your ears. It can get a bit confusing, and it's like too much information, so we know what to do. I don't really see it like that. I think Danny Jacobs has been fighting since he was a kid. As far as I'm aware, he's definitely from very young, big amateur experience, loads of fights, professional, about 30 odd fights, I don't know exactly how many. But I don't see him going in there, throwing like a 1-2, then looking over to one corner. Oh, what should I do now? Right hook. Throws the right hook. The left hand comes back at him. He sort of, before I dodge that, looks over the other corner. What should I do now? And then he's like slip it, do you know what I mean? He's not going to be doing that. He knows what to do when he gets in there. He's not going to be confused by too many instructions. It's not like they're both going to be in the corner on the night. I think being with Virgil Hunter will be beneficial to him more than anything else from the mental aspect. It's one thing I would say for Virgil Hunter. I mean, we can debate about what he's like as a trainer, but from the mental aspect, I think he's definitely very good. He seems like very, very wise, very good talker, a very soothing presence. And I can imagine someone like Danny Jacobs, who's gone into this fight, in my opinion, not really wanting the fight. Now, I never claim that I can see inside another man's head and tell you exactly what he's thinking, but looking at the way the events went down, looking at what happened, to me it looks like he was pressured into it. I mean, he was mandated to take the fight by the WBA. He was the mandatory challenger, and the WBA had to literally say to him, Danny, come on mate, you've got a challenge for the title now. Let's make this happen. Now, if you compare that, contrast that with another fight that we've been talking about a lot recently, Kell Brook, Errol Spence. Errol Spence, the mandatory challenger, he's chomping at the bit to get his chance, and he's got to go over to England to do it. Now, Danny Jacobs was going to have the fight in his hometown for 3 belts to be the man, and from what I'm seeing, he seemed quite reluctant. Regardless of what he said, his actions tell me that he was quite reluctant to do it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe behind the scenes he was just, all part of some big plan to get a better deal. I don't know. I can only look at what I see and give my take on it. And to me, he looked quite reluctant to take that fight. Certainly didn't seem very enthusiastic. So, that being said, I think getting Chris Algerian, going out to Oakland, having like Virgil Hunter, Andre Ward around him, I think having Hunter and Ward around him will be very good for his confidence. I think they will make him feel a lot more confident in himself. They'll just soothe him a little bit and like calm him down, and like just take the sort of stress out of it and just make him feel a lot more relaxed going into this. That's what I think. In terms of the actual fight itself, Danny Jacobs to me looks very, very good, very like he has a lot going for him when he's comfortable. Like I've seen him in fights a couple of times, he's been pushed onto the back foot. But against Pirog, he didn't look very good. He looked uncomfortable, and he didn't seem relaxed enough to really start flowing with his punch selection and his movement. He didn't look very good. I've seen him a couple of times against I can't remember the bloke's name, Caleb something. Even in that fight, I'd never heard of the bloke before. And even in that, he sort of won by again like one of those where he's like just swinging loads of punch, and the referee stopped it. But he didn't look that comfortable in that quite a lot of the time. And when he did start to feel confident, when he did look like, there's nothing for me to worry about, then he starts fighting very well. Then he looks very relaxed, and then you can see like a good movement, good punch selection. I think in this fight against Golovkin, he's never going to be relaxed enough to really fight at his full potential, considering the mental aspect going into it, which as I just stated, I think will be better, but I still think it's going to be a problem. I think the way Golovkin just applies not just physical but mental pressure just on you all the time, he's going to be able to take your punches, he's going to be hitting you hard, he's just there everywhere you go, he's there, just calculated, methodical, just breaking you down. I don't see Danny Jacobs ever relaxing enough to just get into his groove. So I think another thing, I've seen Danny Jacobs quite a few times on the ropes against people who aren't even particularly hard punchers or aren't particularly strong. He does have quick feet, Danny Jacobs, and I've seen him. He does have the ability to kind of get himself out of a pickle if he needs to, but he doesn't use that very well from what I've seen. He doesn't have the cleverest, or what's the word, not the most efficient footwork that I've ever seen. Although he has the potential and he's quick, I just think going backwards under pressure, I don't see really that we're going to see the best of him. So I think Golovkin is. People are going to say that he's been talking about other stuff and that he's not really. I don't see that at all. People ask him about stuff and he might talk about Canelo or Billy Joe Saunders. They're talking about them in Kazakhstan. I don't think so. I think he's been around long enough. He's a bit like a Mayweather or a Klitschko to me. Just totally focused, total professional. He's not overlooking Danny Jacobs. He knows that he's a threat, but he knows that he has the advantage. So if he performs to the best of his ability, if he prepares to the best of his ability, then it's his fight to lose, in my opinion. I think he sees it the same way. So I don't really see any slip-ups coming from him there. I think Danny Jacobs, he's dangerous, but I think stylistically we're not going to see the best of him. I think he's a very good fighter, Danny Jacobs. I just think Golovkin is better, and I think it's going to be. I don't know. I think it's going to be a stoppage within. I'd say within about 7 or 8 rounds. I'd say within. I'll be a bit braver. I'll go for the round 7 or 8. I think it's going to be. Now, if Danny Jacobs can win, then great. Good luck to him. Be very happy for him. We'll obviously be happy for Golovkin as well if he wins. I'd like to see him get the credit that he deserves as well. I don't feel like Golovkin gets the credit he deserves. I don't really understand. I mean, I can understand obviously there's a lot of sort of Canelo fanboys who don't like him because he's just humiliated Canelo. But outside of that, he's basically always does the job. He fights the best possible opponents. He wants to stay at middleweight. He wants to prove himself as the #1 middleweight in the world. I don't have a problem with that. All this kind of you've got to go up in weight and fight this person. You've got to go down in weight and fight this. We get all these names on your record. That's fine if you're into that and you're sort of consistent with it. Fine. Personally, I like to see someone prove themselves to be the best in their division. So someone like Carl Froch, for example, he's always talking about Golovkin. He's never fought anyone. Well, to be honest, the difference between Carl Froch and Gennady Golovkin is that Carl Froch had people available for him to fight. He was in that Super 6 tournament. Carl Froch fought at super middleweight his whole career. I mean, he had an opportunity to go up and fight Nathan Cleverly. They offered him to fight a light heavyweight for Nathan Cleverly's WBO belt at one was a voluntary. Carl Froch didn't want to do it. He stayed at super middleweight. So not to have a go at Carl Froch or anything, but when people talk about you haven't sort of fought anybody, I don't really see it like that. I think there's an element of luck there involved in some of the people that he basically fought, fair play to him, the best available people in his weight division, which is what Golovkin is doing. So I think he deserves a lot more credit for what he's doing. Hopefully he'll get credit if he does beat Danny Jacobs, and hopefully Danny Jacobs gets credit if he beats Golovkin. Don't want people to start saying Golovkin was just some hype job, and whoever wins is going to get a lot of credit from me. May the best man win. I think it's going to be Golovkin. So that's how I see it. Let me know what you lot think about it. Thank you very much for watching.